the Central Intelligence Agency. Even its name evokes mystery and intrigue. Born in the aftermath of World War II, the CIA emerged from the ashes of its wartime predecessor, the Office of Strategic Services, or OSS. President Truman, seeking a way to monitor and counter Soviet influence, signed the National Security Act of 1947. This act, in turn, created the CIA. The agency's initial directive was simple: gather intelligence and provide analysis to the President and the National Security Council. However, the CIA's role quickly expanded beyond these initial boundaries. It became a tool of covert action, engaging in espionage and clandestine operations around the globe. From the very beginning, the CIA operated in the shadows. Its very existence was a secret. Its agents, recruited from elite universities and military backgrounds, were trained in the arts of deception, sabotage and subterfuge. The agency's early years were marked by both successes and failures as it navigated the murky world of Cold War espionage. One of its first major undertakings was the overthrow of the democratically elected government of Mohammad Mossadegh in Iran in 1953. This operation, codenamed Operation Ajax, set a dangerous precedent for future CIA interventions in foreign governments. The CIA's early successes in covert operations emboldened its leaders. They saw the agency as a crucial weapon in the fight against communism. However, these successes were often achieved at a high cost. The agency's actions often had unintended consequences, destabilizing governments and fueling anti-American sentiment. Despite these drawbacks, the CIA's power and influence continued to grow throughout the 1950s. It became a ubiquitous presence in Washington, its budget and authority expanding with each passing year. The agency's reach extended far beyond the halls of power, infiltrating universities, media organizations, and even religious groups. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more insights into the CIA's untold history. The Cold War provided fertile ground for the CIA's covert operations. With the Soviet Union posing an existential threat, the CIA's role in intelligence and covert actions became crucial. The agency aimed to undermine Soviet influence in Europe and Asia. This involved supporting anti-communist groups, spreading propaganda, and plotting assassinations. The CIA's activities extended to Latin America, Africa, and the Middle East. A significant early operation was the Berlin airlift of 1948 to 1949. The CIA coordinated the airlift that supplied West Berlin with essentials. This was a major propaganda victory for the West. In 1954, the CIA overthrew Jacobo Arbenz Guzman, Guatemala's president. The agency armed and trained exiles who overthrew Arbenz in a coup. This led to decades of military dictatorships and anti-American sentiment. Despite controversy, the CIA continued covert operations to counter Soviet influence globally. The Bay of Pigs invasion of 1961 stands as one of the CIA's most infamous failures. The plan, hatched during the Eisenhower administration and carried out under President John F. Kennedy, aimed to overthrow Fidel Castro's communist regime in Cuba. The CIA trained and equipped a force of Cuban exiles known as Brigade 2506 to invade the island and spark a popular uprising against Castro. However, the invasion was poorly planned and executed. The expected air support for the exiles never materialized, and the Cuban military, backed by Soviet tanks and aircraft, quickly crushed the invasion force. The Bay of Pigs was an unmitigated disaster for the Kennedy administration and a major embarrassment for the CIA. The invasion solidified Castro's grip on power in Cuba and pushed him further into the arms of the Soviet Union. It also raised serious questions about the CIA's competence and judgment. The agency's reputation was tarnished, and its relationship with President Kennedy was strained. In the aftermath of the Bay of Pigs, President Kennedy famously vowed to splinter the CIA into 1,000 pieces and scatter it to the winds. While he never followed through on this threat, Kennedy did implement some reforms to the intelligence community. He appointed a new director of Central Intelligence, John McCone, and ordered a review of the CIA's operations. However, these reforms did little to curb the agency's appetite for covert action. The Bay of Pigs invasion had a profound impact on the CIA's institutional culture. The agency became even more secretive and risk-averse. It also developed a deep-seated paranoia about leaks and internal dissent. This paranoia would have tragic consequences a decade later during the Watergate scandal. Despite the Bay of Pigs fiasco, the CIA's involvement in Latin America continued unabated throughout the 60s and 70s. The agency remained fixated on containing the spread of communism in the region, often resorting to covert operations to achieve its goals. The CIA's activities in Latin America during this period were characterized by a disturbing pattern of interference in the democratic processes of sovereign nations. The agency routinely supported coups d'etat against democratically elected governments deemed too leftist or too sympathetic to communist ideals. One of the most notorious examples of CIA intervention in Latin America was its role in the 1973 Chilean coup d'etat that overthrew the democratically elected socialist government of Salvador Allende. The CIA, acting on the orders of President Richard Nixon, provided financial and logistical support to the Chilean military, which overthrew Allende in a bloody coup. General Augusto Pinochet, who emerged as the leader of Chile after the coup, established a brutal dictatorship that ruled the country for 17 years. The CIA's involvement in the Chilean coup is just one example of its long and sordid history of interference in Latin American affairs. From Guatemala to Brazil, from Argentina to Nicaragua, the CIA played a direct role in destabilizing governments and propping up dictatorships. The agency's actions had a devastating impact on the region, contributing to widespread human rights abuses, political instability, and economic inequality. The CIA's legacy in Latin America is one of violence, repression, and betrayal. The agency's actions during the Cold War left an indelible stain on the United States' reputation in the region, fueling anti-American sentiment that persists to this day. The CIA's involvement in Latin America is a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the unintended consequences of covert action. The Vietnam War was a turning point for the CIA, expanding its operational scope and affecting its relationship with the American public. The CIA's role grew beyond intelligence gathering, becoming deeply involved in covert operations in Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. One of the most controversial programs was the Phoenix program, initiated in 1967 to neutralize the Viet Cong infrastructure. The program combined intelligence gathering, psychological operations, and targeted assassinations. The CIA trained South Vietnamese forces to identify and eliminate suspected Viet Cong members, often using brutal methods. The Phoenix program faced criticism for human rights abuses and questionable effectiveness. As public opinion turned against the war, the CIA's domestic activities came under scrutiny. Revelations of domestic spying, propaganda, and assassination plots shocked the public, leading to a crisis of confidence. The Watergate scandal further tarnished the CIA's reputation, revealing deep involvement in illegal activities. The Vietnam War and Watergate marked a turning point, leading to investigations that uncovered numerous abuses and curtailed the CIA's power.